Gonna share some thoughts and multitask. There's this New York Times opinion article about how thinking is a new luxury. And like from a rude perspective, but also like a real perspective, I find that true. There's so many stimuli that are at least like you're breaking your level of concentration. I giggle because like mine was just broken because I could have just finished my sentence. But there's so many stimuli that are just like designed to perturb whatever train of thought that you have, and you really have to stand strong against it and to say, hey, no, I'm going to continue this thought. Giggling because we're like, oh, this is the most modern time. We are in modern society. We have all these technologies and whatnot. But personally for me, I think best when I'm away from things, when I'm in nature, when I'm looking at a great view, where I'm on vacation, away from my house and all the things that I know I have to do. Those are the environments that I think the best, when all of those stimuli are out of my general area and I can just continue to have like a straight, coherent thought. And we don't have that as much nowadays. And so like I'm giggling because it's like, okay, modern society, we are, the smartest, but also like just reflecting on older societies when people had the time, when humans had the time to focus on a craft and really lock in, because that was what they were doing. They didn't have to worry about picking up their kids from school at 4:35 and then, oh, they're gonna hit traffic. Oh, but they're gonna play the radio. The radio is playing this song that makes you feel nostalgic and makes you think about this situation. Oh, okay, maybe I need to stop by the grocery store on my way back home so we can get some oranges since we'll need them for tomorrow. I'm home, I have to clean the dog real quick before we do this. All of that stuff. Like, that there's so much to think about, and your train of thought, I think, is just constantly being interrupted. Though this is also not an original thought. That's another side note. I don't think this is an original thought that our modern times may not be our smartest times. We're 2025, still marveled at a lot of the structures that ancient people, I don't even like that saying, I don't know what to call them, earlier civilizations, and the different marvels that they made, like pyramids, or even the invention of mathematics that had to be invented, cultivation of different crops, domestication of animals. Like, that is a craft that people had to lock in and focus on the subtleties of things. And there's just so many things, and there's so much entropy in the system, whether it be the physical system or just our train of thought, that, besides even AI, they're like, oh, AI is making us dumber. Like, even outside of AI, just having all of this around and not being able to have a coherent, undisturbed thought, that's what's making us dumber. But I don't think that this is an independent thought. I remember a video essay about how, like, our thoughts are not original. Our thoughts are programmed. Like, our thoughts are what we're told. And there's so many people, and there's so much going on, that we need to accept the fact that originality doesn't really exist. But anytime a thought that you identify with is placed on your heart, maybe it's just time for that thought to blossom in your community, in your area. We need to let go of the idea of originality. It does not exist. Maybe I will find that video, because it's only fair to share, and we're so stuck on being original and being the first to think that, or, oh, that was my idea. And like, I say this too as myself, like criticism to myself. There are no thoughts that are original. Very, very, very few thoughts that are original at this time. There's so many people. And we think these thoughts because of the pressures that we're put on our society, and pressures meaning, oh, doing complex math is hard in my head, so maybe there should be something to help. Okay, somebody invented the calculator. But whoever invented the calculator, maybe they were the first to invent the calculator, but or they were just the loudest. They got the visibility, they got the credit for doing so. But I dare say that the invention of the electronic calculator may, whoever it was attributed may not be the first person to do so. Respectfully, George Washington Carver, the first person to invent peanut butter. But you're like, when you really think about it, I haven't done my research, but it's like, was he really the first person to invent peanut butter? Or was he the first person to get credit for inventing peanut butter? Because it's like, damn, we had peanuts but no peanut butter? And respectfully, peanut butter is just crushed up peanuts with some oil added. We never thought about doing that before George Washington Carver. And let me just look up when George Washington Carver was. George Washington Carver. No offense, GWC. He was born only in 1864. He died in 1943. That was recent enough. Almost 20 years before my parents were born. Controversial statement, but maybe not the first. George Washington Carver is such a notable figure in Black history. I find it hard to believe that George Washington Carver was the first person who thought of about putting peanuts in an emulsion and adding oil for a calorie-rich, nutritional food. And if you're here with me, and maybe here is crazy or here is here, like it doesn't make sense. Like, who cultivated peanuts first? Peanuts were first cultivated in South America, likely in the area of modern-day Peru and Brazil. Indigenous people in that region domesticated the plant and cultivated it for thousands of years before European explorers encountered it. Archaeological evidence suggests cultivation dating back at least 7,600 years in Peru. So you mean to tell me 7,600 years ago, indigenous people in South America domesticated the peanut plant, and it wasn't until the 20th century that we thought to make it into peanut butter? How much Black history is just rebranding of something. Like Black history in terms of invention. Okay, maybe that's the easiest or bucket to put it in. I don't want to fall into the peanut butter propaganda, the PBP. But again, I don't think that that's an original thought. Back to my original thoughts, like it's almost like rain on a puddle or rain on a lake. Like again, thoughts being the rain, the population being the water droplets in a lake, the spreading of those ideas being the vibrations from the raindrops encountering the pond or the lake. I say I've been more okay with the idea of not being original, but having the courage to share the thoughts that come to me to whatever community I'm a part of. Though I see myself building a community, because then what's the point of all this if it's not to do that? Secondarily though, I'm giggling because I don't know if this is contradictory, but whatever, I'll say it. There are no original thoughts. But I see people who I'm like, damn, you've never had an original thought. And of course we've never had original thoughts, or very rarely, but it just to me is a little bit frustrating to see people who I feel like have never challenged themselves to try to think originally, or people who are constantly just chasing fads or chasing whatever's hip, or just repeating a cycle. And repeating cycles, at least from my perspective, so this is biased and this is judgy, but repeating cycles that really have no real value. It's just stupid to me. It's people who just copy what they see in other people. And I used to think, okay, that's a young thing, that's people, that this is the youth, society, whatever. Like, I'm not even gonna say specific just to women, but this is men too, but like just younger people, and especially with the proliferation of social media, seeing people and doing trends and stuff, and they want to duplicate that. But working amongst several different generations and interacting with different generations of people, and then on top of that, now living in a slightly different culture, a Western European culture, I see this a lot. I see this just as prevalently in older people. To me, it's sadder in older people who don't have original thoughts, or who just want to be part of the crowd, or are very scared to have individuality. I see it from a different vantage point in Western European societies. I see that there is almost a fear of being excluded from the group or people. The fear of individuality in Western European society is you're either part of the group or you're neutral, but even the neutral people don't want to be excluded, so they just become part of the group. I get the impression that it's so scary, or so just not even an option to challenge or to think opposite. And that to me it's very different from what I'm used to in an American society, where yes, you still have the crowd and whatnot, and you still have like your own little pockets of people and behaviors and cliques, but it seems like there's almost like something for everybody. So like eventually you mesh into a crowd, but you find your crowd. But I think about people who are maybe more seen people, like very like, and like if they present as anti-conventional, even the anti-conventional people find each other. And like by standing out and rejecting that crowd, they find their crowd. They're individual that they reject that, but they end up finding their own. But I don't see that as much. And personally for me, it's also been a bit of a mind fuck in Belgium, because it's like, okay, individuality is a little bit discouraged or scared. People want to be in the group. They don't want to be excluded. But I find people very stylish here. And personally for me, I just as someone who likes clothes, who likes style, who pays attention to that types of things, I always attributed having individual style to being an individual. And to a degree, yes, but it's such a mindfuck, because I feel like, okay, if you already exist in your own individual style, then you are comfortable with standing out or being kind of a bit of your own. Because in America, I think about walking in the streets on the East Coast, particularly in large cities like New York City, whatever. Not so much DC, but sometimes, whatever. That you see very stylish people like doing their thing. No offense to my Floridians, but I don't know, something about being in the heat. The style is less prevalent. It's there though. It's there. Don't get me wrong. But like, I don't understand why Floridians just don't be dressing down like that. Another conversation for another day. But you see like people with lots of individual style here in Western Europe. And so I'm like, okay, you're stylish. You have your own thing. Okay, whatever. Nice jacket. Cool. But they still, the mindset. And so it's led me to separate. What? Is it the 2? Is it any number? The 2? Weird. I mean, like, you can't just... It's led me to separate the concept of personal style or individual style and individual mindset. The idea that you can be a person with your own individual style, but in terms of mindset, you still like want to be part of the crowd. Because to me, that if I see, if you have individual style, then the mindset is to be a little bit different in terms of how you present yourself from the group, or you've been able to kind of whittle that down to what speaks to you. So if you're willing to identify specific things that speak to you in terms of personal style, then why not also adapt that into mindset? Be active in your awareness that you may not have the same mindset of people, and how they think or move about the world, and so comfort and being individual. But I don't necessarily see that as much here, and so it's such a mind fuck. It's really interesting to me. Continuing, I think that's really all I have to say. Is I don't believe George Washington Carver invented peanuts, and Black history to a degree was what we were told was Black history, but I think we know that whatever. There are no original ideas and no original thoughts, and maybe it's just our responsibility is just to share whatever unoriginal thoughts that we have in our community, and just to spread it in that way. Americans really value individuality, a greater acceptance of not being included in a crowd, whereas it seems like some Western Europeans are definitely more guided by a principle that like a four-group inclusion, almost like a fear-based system. And personally, I am decoupling the idea of personal style and individual style, also meaning individual mindset, because they are distinct things.